This is Giants baseball. Told straight. You're listening to NorCal Sports Network. No homers, no casuals. Just truth. Let's go!
Love this new intro song.
All right, everybody, welcome on in NorCal Sports Network and the Giants. Man, Casey, that was pathetic to watch. That was hard to watch. I felt like I was watching the Bad News Bears or something show again. Wow. What a mess. What a mess. You got any comments on this game?
The comment is just, that's what the season's like. You know, that is basically, it's been bad defense, not executing, and that's been the whole season. It's just this team refuses to have any type of identity. They won't outpitch you. They won't, outfield you, and they won't outslug you.
Yeah, it's really something because, the first two innings, the Marlins had 2 runs and they had 1 hit. And it wasn't an extra base hit or anything that I recall. I can't even remember. It was so hard to watch. But Trevor McDonald was wild, and then the errors on Devers in the first, and McDonald misses the bag in the second, throwing balls into the outfield.
Little League.
Yeah, it looked like Little League, and this team is so flat. And it just has I tried to tell everybody. They won a couple of games in Atlanta, and everybody, woohoo, yeah, man, this team is, if we could just put 10 in a row together, we'll get right back in it. I think this team's can really hit. Don't worry, Santa Cruz, I already ate my lunch. Don't worry about it. While you sit there and eat, go ahead. Jeez. Anyway, Casey Schmitt hits his 16th homer, barely missed 17 and 18. The kid is hitting 293. I'm starting to think maybe he is a 275 hitter.
Absolutely. I think that what everybody forgets is, this guy's a second round draft pick. This wasn't a guy that's, your 12th round. And you're like, hey, who's this guy? I mean, he was highly touted. This isn't coming as a surprise, obviously, to you or myself.
Right. No. In fact, if everything goes well, Casey will join us Monday night or sometime Monday. I don't know if it'll be recorded, or live. I'm not sure yet. It'll be up to his schedule. It is an off day that he mentioned he can make it. So we'll see. But this is, and I'm looking at him play left field, and he's playing pretty good for a guy who, I love his arm out there.
Mm-hmm.
He played Karam. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday where, he kept the runner at third by, hitting the cutoff man. And he just seems to know exactly what he's doing out there. He's a true athlete. He's a true baseball player is what he is.
Total pro. I mean, there aren't too many guys that can DH, play first, play second, play short, play third, and now the outfield. Plus, be on pace for 30 plus homers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who the Giants all-star is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Lee, Arise, or Schmidt. I don't think they get more than one.
Right.
I guess if there's some injuries, they could possibly get 2. Whether they give it to Lee or Schmidt. I mean, Arise sure seems like a good candidate, and he would be fun to watch. But who knows if he'll even be a Giant? Maybe he won't even be a Giant by July. What is the All-Star game? It's usually right around the 13th, 14th of July. Let me look here at the schedule.
I think it's mid-July.
Yeah, it's always my dad's birthday was on July 13th, and it was always right around there. All-Star game is July 14th this year. Yeah.
There you go.
So who knows? That's just a little over 2 weeks before the trade, just really almost 3 full weeks before the trade deadline. If they keep going with these losses, what's the use of, I don't know. I mean, the Giants, they're just a difficult team to watch. I mean, and I don't like the roster construction, Casey. I don't know about you. I look at this lineup: Arise, Eldridge, two lefties, Chapman, and then it's Devers, Lee, two lefties, and then it's Adames, Schmidt, two righties, and then Gilbert. And you see how Miami sets up the pitching. They're going to bring in a lefty here to face these next two lefties, and then they're going to and a little bit more, and then he'll bring in the righty. And when you stack it like that, you give the opposition an advantage with their bullpen. I don't know. They really don't have a true leadoff hitter. I guess I'd go Arise, but then I would probably go at the number 2. I guess you really don't have a good righty except Schmidt. Maybe I would go. Dang, there's not much to choose from there, is there? I guess this is what I would do. I would go Arise, Schmidt, Eldridge. And then Eldridge is going to get, Schmidt will get pitched too good. They don't want to face out. And then 4, I would go, this is what I would do. I would go Ramos when he comes back. I'd put him at 4. 5, I'd go Lee. 6, I would go Chapman. 7, I would go give me another lefty in there. I guess you won't have a lefty. 7, I'm not going Adames 7 and behind Chapman. I guess I got to stick. What the heck? Who do we got in there? Oh, wait a minute. I forgot Devers, didn't I?
Isn't that funny? We forget Devers, the highest price.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about Devers. Not even thinking about Devers because he's not that.
He's kind of
doesn't
forgettable.
do much. He's kind of forgettable. Yeah. So I guess you go Arise, Schmidt 3. Maybe Eldridge 3. I guess you can go. Gosh, then you're lefty. I don't know. Whatever. What's their record now? 31-45. 31-45. My goodness.
I mean, for me, it's unequivocally, just moving off these guys, and I know you've touched upon it, but what this team is really away from competing. When you look at the Yankees, when you look at the Dodgers, they are a true ace away. I love Logan Webb, but he's not in the same, he's the number 1 pitcher on the Giants, but he's not an ace if he goes to the Yankees. If you actually, put him on the Yankees, and let's just say it's an elimination game, you're probably putting Cam Schlittler in there. You're probably putting in Max Fried in there. You're probably putting in Garrett Cole in there. I mean, Logan Webb's probably the 4th starter on the Yankees, and nothing against Logan Webb. I love Logan Webb. I think he's a great player. I think he's, led the league last year, in strikeouts. He's an innings guy. He's just a great player. If you have a whole team of Logan Webbs, you're doing fantastic. But then you consider even the Dodgers, the Dodgers rotation. You've got guys like, Otani, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Snell. I mean, again, probably a 4th starter. The Phillies, you've got Christopher Sanchez, you got Wheeler. He's probably a 3rd starter on that team. So for the Giants to be literally not just squeaking into the playoffs with 85 wins, you're talking about having to get, I don't know if you looked at obviously the free agent class next year, but it's not good.
Right. No, it's not.
You've got Skubal, who's obviously dominant, but he's also getting up there in age. He's going to be, I think, 30-31 next year. He's going to sign an absolute monster of a deal. We know how normally those age. And then you've got Peralta, you've got Michael King. You've got
Michael King. Nothing great.
Nothing great. And Kevin Gausman, who's going to be 36. And I love Kevin Gausman, but don't get me wrong. So just on the starting pitching side, you would literally need to get Peralta, King, and Skubal, which it's just not going to happen. Not especially when you're considering that probably there's going to be a floor next year, and instead of just 5, 6 teams competing against, trying to get pitchers, you might have literally the A's and the Brewers and all these other teams trying to spend, obviously, because they're going to have to, meet that $150 million floor, whether that's done, next year, or they gradually let them do that over a series of 2 or 3 years. I think the competition's just going to be higher. You're also going to need a second baseman. Like, obviously, Luis Arias is a free agent. You're probably, going to need a corner outfielder. I mean, what do you think, Dan? Have you remembered a World Series team where collectively the 3 outfielders are probably less than 40 home runs? I mean, when you consider Bader, Lee, and Ramos, I don't know if I take those 3 or 40 home runs. Do they even eclipse that?
I doubt it. Maybe Ramos hits 20, Lee hits what, 7 or 8?
Yep.
That's 28, and Bader hits 10. Yeah, you're under 40.
You're under 40. So it's like you need a power, corner outfielder. You need a second baseman. You need a closer. You need a setup guy. You need an ace, and you need a number 2 and a number 3.
Oh, you need so much. This is why you have to tear it down and rebuild it and start with the young guys. Here's the free agent list for next year. You mentioned some of these names: Skubal unrestricted. Michael King has an opt out. I don't know if you opt out at $32 million. My goodness, he's not having the greatest season either. Sonny Gray, he's no good. We already got Robbie Ray. That's Severino, Gallen, Imanaga. No. Woodruff's been hurt all year. Gosman, as you mentioned, is old. Barrios, no. Bassett's old. Imai, Flair. It's a horrible free agency. I mean, Sandy Alcantara is not that great. He's
he's got a club option. They're totally going to exercise that. I mean, I think they'll probably just take that at 21.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I got to grab a quick phone call. Let me have you just keep going here, and then I will remove this, and I'll be right back.
Yeah. So basically, it's this idea: if you think the pitching is bad on the free agency, the hitting's even worse. I think it's like Jazz Chisholm Jr. is one of the best free agents. That's a position player, and then you've got, if memory serves, I think it's Randy Arozarena. I mean, just 2 guys that aren't really going to make a difference, on this team. So it really comes down to the question of, hey, if you can't rebuild it in free agency, and would that even make sense to try to rebuild this in free agency by getting, even if you could just snap your fingers and get Peralta, King, and Skubal on this team, would you even want that? Or do they turn into the exact same pitching problem that the Giants have on the offensive side with, basically Matt Chapman, Devers, and Adames? Those 3 contracts with Peralta, King, and Skubal are probably going to look very similar. They're going to look pretty horrible in just maybe a year or 2 time. And you'll have invested a lot of money. You'll have invested the exact same amount of money that you've put into Devers, Adames, and Chapman.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It just seems to me it's very clear, but the powers that be, I keep hearing people say, this is the thing that irritates me with Bay Area media. They get hot a little bit on offense. And I heard this of Mark Willard the other day, and I'm like, Willard, come on, let's not have recency bias. He said, and I agree with him. They need pitching. He doesn't want to tear the thing down because he thinks it's a pretty good offense. But Adames and Devers are not consistent. I'm sorry.
Right.
They're not consistent hitters. And you can't build an offense when at least a third of it, and those are your 3 highest players, are Jekyll and Hyde.
Right.
I mean, Chapman is, let's see where Chapman is. He reached 262 recently. He's 245. I told you guys, he's coming back to earth. His hot streak is over. Okay? His hot streak is over. That's nothing against Matt Chapman. That's just who he's been his whole career.
Yeah, I really honestly think it's Devers, Adames, Chapman, and Ramos. I'll throw Ramos in there too for being incredibly streaky. So you got four, hitters that, hey, some days they show up, and yeah, it's the days that you get the 12, 13 runs. And then how many times the Giants have been shut out this year or put together, only 2, 3 runs across the board that they scratch and claw for. And then when you've got the pitching staff the way that it is, where it's like you don't, like I said, really have an ace. There's no Kane or Bumgarner or Lincecum coming through this farm system, next year. So, like, basically, we all know the Giants are one of the worst teams in baseball, and the very few teams go from worst to first. And the only way you can go from worst to first is if you've got guys in AAA ready to contribute at the big league level, and you hit on free agency. As we talked about, there's nothing really in free agency, and their players that are in the farm, as we all know, are 2, 3 years away. So why in the world would you not rebuild this team?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, no postman I have. All right. Santa Cruz. I was trying to look through here. Who's the guy going and talking about politics? Okay. Santa Cruz Bob. He's made enough comments. Timeout. Let's give him a timeout. We'll give you a 5-minute timeout. Come back to your senses. And if you do it again, we'll just ban you. Look, you got too many wisecracks, Surfer Bob. And I don't even think you're Surfer Bob. You're somebody else who's been in here that's a hater coming in under a different name. But we'll give you another shot. But you got a 5-minute timeout. All right. Oh, boy. Hold on. What do I got? I got to change something in my fantasy lineup. I got somebody that just got reported as healthy. I got to put him in the lineup. Boy, this is, if I have room, let me see. Hold on here. I got to get this done before I'm on a time crunch. Okay, 6:10. Okay. Oh, great. Why did I play you, clown? Oh, I have no room to play him today. Doggone it. Oh, well. That's not good. I can't seem to, no. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I can. Let's try this.
If only the Giants were just as easy to fix, huh, as the fantasy baseball team.
Yeah. Well, I got a solid team here, man. I got, I'm going to put Kurtz there. And Reynolds. We'll put you there. All right. That's what we're doing. Bummer. I got a guy that's not playing tonight. All right. No, I see Mike Val makes an interesting point. If you trade Chapman, you can then move Casey to his natural position and then go sign Skubal. Well, that's great if you trade Chapman, but what happens if you can't sign Skubal? Or maybe you say you try and put the two together, maybe you work out a deal where you've got Chapman traded and you got Skubal agreeing to a deal, and then you have Skubal and Webb, and then you have Chapman, not Chapman, but Schmidt and maybe Eldridge on the corners. Maybe you go out and re-sign a Luis Ariz to a long-term deal as he becomes a free agent. Put him back at second. If you could work at trading Willie Adames somehow. I just think they're a long ways away still. And that's why I would do a rebuild. I don't understand the mindset of people that don't want to actually tear it down. This is 9 years out of 10, Casey. No winning record. Right. And it's going to be 10 out of 11 next year. It's like, and 28 wouldn't shock me if it's 11 of 12. And then I think they can start winning if they did it right. I mean, they got a lot of young guys that are coming up. And if you if you traded a Logan Webb and got a haul of really good prospects, you can expedite the rebuild like the White Sox have done. And what's better than having a bunch of young 22, 24, 26-year-olds that are actually exciting and athletic and have power and speed and just all of it. That's what you want.
It's 100% what they have to do. Otherwise, trying to go after even getting, like I said, a Skubal and Peralta and King, you're not going to get, and sign Luis Arias and get a corner outfielder. You're missing, in all honesty, 8 to 9 players on this team, which is why they're one of the worst teams in baseball, because a third of your roster needs to be revamped. It's a no-brainer. People who are saying that they don't think that they should trade Webb, I think they're living in la la land. Like they know very little about baseball. It makes no sense to have an asset and let Logan Webb go play for a winner. Let Logan Webb, literally go and join a playoff team, because he's only gone in one game against, 1 or 2 games against the Dodgers there in 2021. So it's like, hey, let him go and show everybody what he can do, because he's a great competitor. And I think it's like, you don't just stop though with Webb, because once you literally start with Webb, my argument is honestly to move Casey Schmitt as well. And not because, again, like you, I love Casey Schmitt, but the idea is that, hey, he's controllable for 3 more years after this year. The Giants are not going to be, a world beater even at, 2029. That's just when things will kind of like maybe begin. But why keep, Casey Schmitt on the team for what is going to be still 2 really bad years with the Giants?
They're not going anywhere in the next 2 years. It does not appear, unless the only way out is if you did get a Skubal in free agency and got a Freddie Peralta and got some really good arms in the bullpen to shore up. You got a legitimate closer and a good setup man and a 7th inning guy. That's 5 guys that you would have to get. And then you would have to move off of Chapman to save some of that money. And maybe if you were able to move off of, either A or B, Adames or Devers, if you got rid of 2 of those 3, and then you had somebody that, I don't even know. Let me look at the free agent outfielders for next year.
It's horrible. It's literally Randy Arozarena is the number 1 position player.
Oh my gosh.
So
batters. Okay. So Bo Bichette can opt out. I doubt it. Why would he opt out for $55 million? My gosh. Anthony Rendon. Please. Springer's old. He's going to be 37. Grisham. Oh my gosh. It's horrible.
It's horrible. It's bad. The idea, on all honesty, of trying to get a Skubal and Peralta, I always say when you're on your call,
it's not going to work.
No. It's not going to work. And what's going to happen is you're going to get Skubal, Peralta, and King, and it's going to turn out to be the pitching equivalent of Devers, Adames, and Chapman. You're going to be sitting there in 2 to 3 years being like, what do we do now? We have $80 million, on for the next 4 years tied up to guys that are probably just not contributing. Not to say that Skubal's going to fall off quickly, but
there really are. I should say, really is only one true way out, and that is to tear it down and rebuild. And I don't know. This is what makes me realize and believe that they never have had a real plan. They've never had a plan, because you went and got Devers in June of 25, just a year ago, almost to the day, June 13th, I think it was. Yeah. Today's June 20th. They just got Devers, and they didn't think that they had Bryce Eldridge coming up. And then they didn't think about re-signing Matt Chapman when you had Casey Schmitt. This tells me that this organization really doesn't know its players. They didn't know what they had in Casey. They didn't know what they had in Eldridge. If we're really being honest, I don't think they truly knew how good he could be. And I don't think they saw what they had in Ramos down in the farm when he was down there. Ramos he's probably a 20-80 guy, 260-ish. That's about what Ramos is.
Sure.
Adequate, but you don't have any, you got Eldridge to build around. But I mean, imagine if these guys are as good as they appear to be, Gonzalez and Hernandez. And again, there's no guarantee there either that these guys either A, don't make it, or B, they don't get injured and they never materialize. So there's that. It's a bad situation. I don't think the front office really does know exactly what they're doing. I don't think, because you put yourself in a really, really bad situation. I was watching MLB Network the other day, and they had Mark DeRosa on, along with Dan O'Dow, former general manager of the Rockies. And you could just look at Dan O'Dow, and I've heard him talk kind of negatively about the Giants in the past, but he just says, what are they doing? It's just kind of, he's shaking his head because they got Devers and Adames and Chapman tied up for 4, 5, and 7 years after this year, 4, 5, and 7. And they're not producing. And everybody, the mindset, which is the definition of insanity, repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, they're going to bring this crew back again and think, oh, they just got off to a rough start in April. If you saw them in May and parts of June, and they'll believe, oh, this is who they can be. No, we know who Matt Chapman is. Nothing against Matt Chapman, great third baseman, but he's a 240 plus, give or take 240, give or take 10 up, 10 down, between 230 and 250 tops. Okay, 250 is his ceiling. Probably his floor is about 220. But we know his ceiling, and he's getting older. Okay. Adames, I think we saw his ceiling in Oracle Park last year.
And I mean, it's great. I mean, 30 home runs in Oracle is an accomplishment. I think, the whole aspect of things is that there is a solution here. I think that, in all honesty, it's unequivocally trading Webb. It is trading Schmidt, because you've only got, like I said, one more year of control when the Giants maybe are just at the cusp of actually starting to do something. And you move off of Landon Roop. So it's like, if you trade Landon Roop, is a solid, probably mid-rotation starter who's controllable for 4 years. I mean, Landon Roop honestly brings back another team's Bryce Eldridge and Bo Davidson. That's what he's going to bring back. So you want, to keep Landon Roop on this team for the next 2 years while it's going nowhere? Or do you want to move off of him, get some, young studs that are 21, 22 years old, and have the potential to either become, contributors for the Giants, or trade chips for, a Paul Skeens in 2 years, or whoever these players are going to end up being? It's a no-brainer. And the same thing with Casey Schmitt. The idea of people saying at the trade deadline to move, oh, well, you got to get off of Bader, and they got to get off of Hauser and Mealy and Ray. Those things aren't going to give you anything. That's not how you build anything around.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love Casey but I agree. If you can get pieces for Casey that would help you, give you really solid prospects for 2 years, 3 years down the road. I mean, I'm building this team for 2029 and beyond. I think the Giants, if they did this right, they could own the 2030s decade.
I 100% agree.
They could be like the Astros were, the Dodgers are now. If you accumulate so many assets that some of those assets you use as trade chips, and you get somebody's star player, you get a Juan Soto for 3 or 4 prospects that has 2 years remaining on his deal to fit in with the rest of the young guys around you. And you have I'm not using Juan Soto in 3 years. I'm talking about Juan Soto 3 years ago,
100%.
but I'm talking about, you get a Soto in his prime, and a guy like Soto, and you have Eldridge, and then you have Hernandez and Gonzalez and Bo Davidson, and you get a stud pitcher like Jackson Flora, the fourth pick, and then you get another high school arm in the 29th pick who's going to be a stud, and all of a sudden he becomes Mad Bum, in 3 years, and then you got Flora who's at the top of his game, and then and whoever you get for Webb is starting to contribute, and you get somebody like a Dieter Fuentes out of Atlanta, and a Cam Caminiti, a 19-year-old top prospect. You get a Fuentes and a Caminiti, and you got two young 21 and 19-year-olds that in 3 years, and you put them with Flora and the other guy you draft, and then maybe like a Bresnahan comes up, and then you have this flood of talent that is just all hitting at the same time. And every year there's more prospects in the pipeline. And then you have so much talent that people are coming to you for their talent. And then they're offering you maybe their top star. And the other thing that when you do this, you have such a low payroll that you can afford the superstar.
This is what I love, Dan, what you just hit on. So I think that super small market teams can rebuild. What the Giants can do is do a super rebuild. And it's this idea of literally, you can get off of this idea of like, oh, we'll get rid of one of the three big contracts. Why? Get rid of all three of them. That doesn't make sense to dip your toe in the water. It's like, oh, maybe trade Matt Chapman or maybe trade Devers, trade them all. And how you could do it is literally like Matt Chapman's deal. I know it sounds crazy, but with him heating up, I don't think he's like that necessarily underwater. I think you could take like Matt Chapman and, maybe take Ryan McMahon, back from the Yankees, who's only getting paid like $13 million for next year. And you just move off of that deal. Maybe throw in Lee as well, because I think Lee's contract is basically right where it should be. And the Yankees, need a center fielder. Maybe you throw in like a Carson Whisenhunt, where it's like a guy who can do long relief and spot start. And all of a sudden, like the Yankees look pretty good, and you've just trimmed off a bunch of that payroll. You could take Adames and maybe move him to the Braves. You could either just eat some of that contract, or you could take on some of their bad deals. You could take on
you got Joe Jimenez. You could take on Hassan Kim. And
you could take on Hassan Kim. You could take up Jerkson Profar, who's making $15 million. They got obviously a stud of a young catcher, but they got Sean Murphy coming back later this month. That's going to be really hard for them to navigate, having this, young catcher, and then Sean Murphy. What is he going to do? He's obviously going to ride the pine. He's not going to be happy with that. You could save the Braves that disaster of a situation, literally take on Sean Murphy, who's only got a $15 million deal next year and the year after. And all of a sudden, with Hassan Kim, Jerkson Profar, and Murphy, you've assumed $52 million of that, but that's not all in dead money. You could probably eat $8-10 million off of Sean Murphy's deal and flip him. So all of a sudden, you can trade Chapman. You just have to be creative about it.
Yeah, you have to be creative. And then if you do that and you take on those bad salaries from Atlanta, they would probably be willing to, give up some guys that they really don't want to give up.
Right.
And, I put together a package, just throwing it out there the other day, of trading Logan Webb and Robbie Ray and paying the rest of Ray's salary for the rest of this year, which would be about $12 million.
Yeah.
Take on those bad contracts that come back. Because the Braves actually, I'm telling you, the Braves have to reload right now, because
their window's now.
Their window's now. And with Acuna out, Michael Harris up and down with his back, he's in and out of the lineup, and they've been winning. I don't really know exactly how they've been doing it. A lot of it's just been their bullpen, because
dynamite.
it's a dynamite bullpen, but they don't have a lot of. I mean, they're shortstops, Mateo, or it's Hassan Kim. Third baseman, Austin Riley's been horrible. Left field has been Yaz. Left or right field. He's moving with Cunha out. He's playing some right field, but Yaz. I mean, they are not. I mean, they've gotten by basically with their pitching. Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, and Drake Baldwin. Cunha's been up in and out of the lineup with injuries. He's out now, probably till the All-Star break. So they just have to add more pieces if they're going to try and beat the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Phillies. They really, they got off to a great start, but will they hold off the Phillies? I don't know. I mean, the Braves are without Acuna till the All-Star break. And Baldwin just came back, when the Giants were in town last week. So it's going to be interesting to see, but they are going to want to add. And if they want, and if you take some of the money away from them that they're stuck with, maybe they have that money to go spend and add like they need to. Let me get to this. Super from Gorneyson says, Dan, in this hypothetical 29 scenario that you're talking about, how is Vitello maintaining his job till then? I can't imagine.
He's part of it.
Yeah, he's part of the he's part of it. Exactly. I think, the one thing that gives me hope that Posey might be on to something is you don't bring Tony Vitello in to manage these veterans.
Right.
Because 100%. It's not number one, it's very difficult for him to, bench these guys, get in their faces for, if Devers doesn't run something out, they're in a cold streak, whatever. I think if Tony was brought in to orchestrate and be part of this whole rebuild and be here for a 10-year period, not just this 3-year contract, but look, we're going to have some growing pains in 26, 27, 28, but Tony's going to be a part of that. And by 29, he will be an established big league manager, and it will be his clubhouse in a way, because it'll be surrounded by young guys, and Bryce will be the leader, and you get guys that grew up around Tony. Bryce Eldridge was recruited by Tony, right? You get guys that are young enough to know that, hey, Tony was a bad dude, in college baseball. And all these guys are coming up either through the international draft or through the college draft. And plus, we just heard MLB's recent proposal to do away with the high schoolers in the draft. I don't know if the Players Association will go along with that, but if that happens, that basically means your college baseball is a huge part of your development. It becomes like, almost the minor leagues in a way, because you're not having these 18-year-old kids in your system so much, except for the kids that come from the international draft. Or not draft, but the international signings. It's really not a draft. I think they're actually proposing an international draft too.
They are, yeah. It's both.
Yeah. So, and I kind of like that. It gives, everybody a fair shake versus, let's just face it. There's few teams that have more in on the draft than at least should financially, but I don't know. We'll see. Vitello is not going to get fired this year, Joe Boyd says. Yeah, I don't think they would. Why would you bring him in? I don't know, man. This is just a very tough watch, though. It's not a and I'll tell you, Casey, what do you think happens? What do you honestly, we've talked about what they should do. What do you think happens?
I could see them just getting gun shy and just not really going for it. To be honest, meaning a full-on rebuild and going for it. Like even last year, Buster gets a lot of praise for. It's like, oh, well, he started to sell and he sold, Rogers, and he sold, on Duvall, and he got rid of Yastrzemski. And to me, that honestly wasn't enough. I don't understand why, Randy Rodriguez wasn't traded. I mean, it wasn't just in retrospect where it's like, okay, obviously now, he was out and had Tommy John, but he was obviously pitching in those games. Remember those games he was pitching against? I think it was right at the Mets, and he was blowing those games. Like, sell high on Randy Rodriguez, sell high on a couple of other players that they could have done last year, and they just didn't. And so they had this combination of not selling enough, and then the offseason comes, and then not adding a starting pitcher, not building onto the bullpen. So I think like the commonality that I'm seeing with the Giants is an inability to commit 100% in one direction, as you keep always saying. It's this inability to pick a lane. So what I ultimately think happens, I think, Arias is gone. I think Ray's gone. I think they're going to try to build up some trade value with Hauser here by pulling him, out into the bullpen and kind of maybe putting him in very favorable positions and getting that ERA down and making him look a little bit more dominant than he is, a little bit of a lipstick on a pig situation. But I don't really see them doing what the Twins did last year, which was move 10 players at the deadline. 10 of 26 players got moved. And for the Giants to really do something, it needs to be literally that extreme. You need to take 10 players on this team and get them off, and not even including the Hausers and the Melees in the group. That's just, that's nothing. That's a break even situation. Yeah. And the idea really is, when I was saying how to like accelerate this rebuild, is what the Giants have is money.
Right.
And the idea is not to say like, okay, well, let's try to get off a Matt Chapman, and, let's try to get off a Willie Adames, and maybe we $30 million on that deal when it all shakes out on that hypothetical trade with the Braves or whomever that's going to be. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, great. 6th Street and the Kushners have now saved a bunch of money because now the payroll is, sub 100 million. The idea is actually think about all the bad contracts around the league right now. Christian Yelich. Yeah. It's a horrible deal for the Brewers, right? He's making $25 million a year next year, 2027 and 2028. What did the Brewers give you, a small market team, if you could take $50 million off of that payroll? Are you getting one of their top prospects in a really loaded farm system? What about Chris Bryant? Chris Bryant has a similar bad deal. And again, it's 2027 and 2028, and then he's a free agent in 2029. And both of those things start lining up with, like we're saying, right when the Giants' competitive window is to be good. You've got the players from the Blue Jays, like Santander, and what is it, their pitcher that just went down with TJ, Barrios, is that how he's pronounced his name?
Oh, yeah. Barrios, yeah.
Barrios. He's making $25 million a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, for next year, which he's obviously not even going to play. He'll be recovering from TJ. And then in 2028 is controllable again for one more year of that deal. But maybe the Blue Jays literally give you JoJo Parker, and they say, hey, here's JoJo Parker and a couple other prospects to take on that deal. All of a sudden, you've now found a way, if you get $100 million off the books, which you absolutely can by getting rid of, obviously there's only a little bit of Ray's deal left this year. You can get rid of Jung Hoo Lee is $20 million. You can get rid of, Chapman at $25 million, and eat very little of these of those deals. I'm not talking about the Devers deal. I think the Devers deal is a separate animal, and I do think you end up having to eat more like $45 million on that deal, maybe like $7 million a year for 7 years, so somewhere around 49 million, right. 45 million. But you really accelerate this rebuild by taking on bad contracts. Absolutely. And getting prospects. Yeah, because the goal is not to just have a payroll of $100 million. The goal is to have a payroll of $200 million, but contracts that are horrible. Yelich is
Yelich has got 2 years to go. He's got 23.3 million in 27 and 28. I'm just looking at it right now. If you traded them Logan Webb and allowed them to have Harrison, Mizorowski, and Webb for a playoff run that could actually go deep, right. And you took off Yelich, and maybe you replaced Yelich with maybe, I don't know, maybe you give them a Jung Hoo Lee and pay part of his salary, and you get Jesus Mate, the number one prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah,
you get
a 19-year-old stud shortstop.
Yeah, the very top prospect in all of baseball. And, you do something like that, and then you got him growing up with, Gonzalez and Hernandez and Johnny Level, and said, well, we got too many shortstops. Well, that's not a problem. You know why? Because one can play second, one can play third, one can play center, another one could probably play left. You got the DH.
You could trade one eventually,
right? Shortstops, if they're usually the most athletic players on the field, and left field is probably one of the easier positions to learn in baseball for a professional. Center field, if you're super elite. And I mean, Jackson Merrill grew up as a shortstop with the Padres, and he never played shortstop once in the big leagues. They had Xander Bogaerts, and so they stuck Merrill in center field. Now he's an elite center fielder.
Right. Yeah, or look at Mookie. Mookie's been able to be an outfielder, a second baseman, a shortstop. I mean, super athletic young players are going to be able to have, flexibility around the diamond.
All right, if you had to rank the big three, or the unholy trinity, or the three amigos, whatever you want to call them, the three stooges, I don't know. What's the order, if you could, if it was like, all right, I can get rid of all three, and it's just I just snap my fingers and what's the order? Let's say, let me put it this way. You can only get rid of one right now. Who you moving? Who you want to get rid of first?
That's a tough question.
I have one. It's easy for me.
Ultimately, I move off of Chapman first. I see if I get a great offer for Casey Schmitt. If you use Brendan Donovan as a comp and Caleb Durbin last year, they got back some big returns, and Casey's actually more controllable. He has 3.5 years, obviously, whereas Donovan only had 2.
He's got more power than Donovan, too.
I mean, it's not even, they're not even in the same ballpark in that regard. So my idea is, if you don't get a good enough offer on Casey, I'd like to move Casey and give him stability and play him at third. Let him show off that glove. I think that he's literally probably a Gold Glove candidate there. Yeah. Stop dicking him around where he doesn't know where he's playing. Hey, you're in first, you're out in left field. What happens when Ramos comes back here anyways? So that allows it to kind of clean that up and clear that up for a little bit. Obviously, like Arias is going to get moved. So yes, you can put Casey at second, but I just don't like it as much as honestly putting Casey at third and letting him show that value that he has.
A corner third baseman that hits 30 homers. Imagine him playing
Yankee Stadium
or Cincinnati, or or these ballparks where you hit a Fenway. Imagine him in Fenway.
40 homers.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a mess for the Giants. I just wish I had the financial resources to purchase the whole thing, because
for a lot of reasons, you and me both.
Yeah, I would, I would change the dimensions of the ballpark. Personally, I would make Triples Alley, and I would make it a hitter friendlier ballpark. I'm there to be entertained. I hate this adage of, oh, well, we got the advantage at home with pitching. Well, then why don't you you're not even 500.
Why don't you have good pitchers then?
Yeah. Why don't you have good pitchers? Yes. I mean, if you had the ballpark that was actually cut out to be a hitter's park, then I might think twice about having Devers. I might want to say, well, you know what? I can keep Devers. I think Devers, some of his biggest problems are because he came to the ballpark and crushed balls that didn't get out. And I think it messed with him, and he tried to swing even harder to crush it out. And I think it changed his whole approach mentally. And that's why he didn't strike out
That and the 20 pounds he put on.
Yeah. He didn't strike out 30% of the time with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Why because he knew that when he was playing in Boston, he can just, tap one out there to left field and it's either hitting the monster or going over it. But here's the thing I would do. Mm-hmm. If I had the chance to move off of a contract, it would probably be Devers right now if I can get rid of it. And the reason is just having him on the team is a detriment to Bryce Eldridge development, in my opinion. Having Bryce be a DH 80% of the time, I think Bryce just needs to be a baseball player. Get him out there at first base. He's athletic. He's learning the position. He's tall. I think he's going to be really good. And then if you got rid of, Adames would be next. Chapman, I would like to get rid of just so they do have a natural position for Casey. But it's so, it's such a mess. It really is. I don't see them being competitive, even when I say competitive, above 500 with the first possibility being 29.
Mm-hmm. I think I totally hear you with, what were they thinking and what was the direction of this time last year getting Devers when your number one prospect is obviously Bryce Eldridge and they play the same position. The only reason why I don't trade Devers and Adames right now on the Devers deal, I just feel like it's just going to be too much of contract that they're going to have to eat. I think that, on that deal, he's owed another $200 million. I think you're looking at probably having to eat $50 million. I just don't think that Buster Posey is going to have wave the white flag to that much of a degree. So he gave up Kyle Harrison, who's obviously, as we all know, having great success in, Milwaukee, gave up Tibbs, and now he's going to eat $50 million and get off of Devers for a bag of peanuts. I don't see that happening. And instead, what the strategy for me is by holding on to Devers. If someone, really wants Rafael Devers right now, which I don't know who would want that, it's about this idea of the CBA. And to me, the CBA, I do think you will get a ceiling, and I think that you will get a floor. And the owners have already said it's $150 million floor. That just starts the negotiation. So when you have 12 teams in the league that are going to need to spend more and add to their payroll, well, all of a sudden, $27 million for Rafi Devers starts to look more palatable. $30 million a year for Adames starts to look more palatable. And as we've talked about, both players are so streaky that, Adames, ironically, he's on pace to get his 26, 27 homers and playing at Oracle. Granted, the batting average has slipped and, we're not in 1997.
So are you saying that if they do a floor that more teams will need to add money and that guys like Adames and Devers now can shift to another team that needs to come up from 85 million to the 150 floor?
And then what does that do too? So you've got this aspect where 12 teams are going to need to add, let's just say on average, about 45 million to their payroll. Okay, well, that's sizable, but what is that also going to do to free agents in the sense of the players that are in the Adames range? The only players that I think are going to truly get affected by a hard cap are the Sotos. Are the players that were going to command $50 million. So maybe Soto doesn't get paid $50 million. He gets paid 42, poor guy.
Right. Yeah.
But guys that are like Adames that are getting, when you amortize that contract out, it's more like $25 million because I think in the first 2 years, he's getting paid $13 million.
Right.
So I think that those contracts start to rise and those contracts will start to go up in addition to, half the league, well, around 10 or 12 teams are going to have to spend $45 million more. So in that offseason, then I look to get rid of Adames. If I can't flip Adames to somebody like, as we mentioned, the Braves, where it's like, hey, that's not a playoff team with, the people that they're putting out there at short. You need Adames, and at the end of the day, the guy hits 30 home runs at Oracle last year. He plays pretty good defense. It's like, if you can get rid of him now, great. And if I can't, I'm holding on to see what happens with the CPA.
I think that's a really good point you make about the floor, because where are those teams going to if they got to come up? Now, it'll be interesting. Do they have a year or two to get to the floor? Right. Do you expect a team that's got an $80 million payroll to double it, practically in the next year, or do they have to gradually get there? It'll be interesting to see. Same with,
I think it gradually.
Those that are over the ceiling, do they have time to get under the ceiling, or do they just, Dodgers got to drop off? Okay, Freddie Freeman, you got to go.
Right, it's an auction.
Max Muncy, Max Muncy, you can't be re-signed. It'd be interesting to see. So, I do like the idea, and I proposed it in the off season. I did a video on it my thing was, I think I came out with a ceiling of 300, a cap of 300, and a floor. I can't remember what the number was, but it was around 150, I think. Ideally, I would love to see, I think a 275 sets people up pretty good, where some teams don't even have to come down too much. Some have to come a little bit. And if you hit the floor at 175, I think that $100 million sweet spot, it brings a lot of teams up. It spreads. I don't know why the Players Association would be against it. To me, it's absolutely ridiculous, because 95% of the players are going to make more money.
Yep.
Because if teams that are, you look, I've got Cott's salary right up here, and the numbers are, Tampa Bay has a competitive balance tax of 111. The Marlins are at 84 million.
Right.
The Guardians, 89.6 million. St. Louis is down to 113. I'm talking about the CBT tax 40 man, not the year end. Okay. The A's are at 140. The Rockies are at 141. So let's just say it was 175. A's would have to come up. Rockies, that's two teams. Guardians, 3. White Sox are at 113. That would be a fourth team. The Twins are at 132. That's 5 teams.
I think it's like
St.
10
Louis,
or 11 teams.
St. Louis, 113. They have to come up. That's 6 teams. The Pittsburgh's at 137. That's 7. The Reds, 151, 8. The Brewers, 145, 9. Marlins, 84. That's 10. Tampa Bay, 111. That's 11. Washington, 121. That's 12. So 12 teams would have to come up to 175. And if you dropped it to 275, the Yankees and the Blue Jays would have to come down. The Red Sox are at 270. They'd be fine. The Mets are at 378 and the Phillies are at 316. They'd have to come down. That's 4. The Braves are at 255. They're fine. Detroit's fine at 245. Cubs are at 249. So 12. We have, how many teams have we had to come down so far? Just the Phillies, barely. No. I'm looking at 282. They're at 316. Phillies, Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays. That's 4. Dodgers, oh my gosh, they're at 420. That's 5. You're talking only 5 teams that would have to come down. Now, if you did it at 250, a few more teams would have to come down. But I think if you had that range of, that 175, 275, it's a win for everybody. You're talking 5 teams.
Right. And it's a win for the fans too. I mean, how many teams, in Kansas, or fans in Kansas City, really feel like their team has a shot? here we're sitting here talking about like, hey, the Giants could go get, now we don't like the plan, and they could go get Scooble, and they could go get Peralta, and they could go get King, and they could get all these players. That isn't feasible for, fans of the White Sox and fans of the Royals and whatever. And I know it's like, hey, all the owners at the end of the day are billionaires, but when you see the disparity between the TV deals, there is a huge difference. When you see the difference of the fact that the Dodgers can draw 4 million fans because they live in one of obviously the biggest cities in the country. Well, I don't care how good the Royals get, they're never drawing 4 million fans. They're not getting a TV deal in the hundreds of millions of dollars because there's just not enough eyeballs in that area. So it's
Correct.
just it makes sense. The fans win, most of the players win, and it's a no-brainer, and I hope it gets done.
Yeah, I sure hope so. And I mean, there's really no reason for the players to actually have a strike because, or not agree to a deal if the owners are willing to have a decent. I mean, the first proposal was like 245, which is, right in line with where the tax is right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they start there. I think there's a little give and take. That's why I say I think it goes up to 275-ish. And I think their floor was like 140, 150, something like that, right? And if they want to push that up, a little give and take. And if you come to the 275, 175, and then you have true revenue sharing, and then I guess you can leave the TV rights to people so the Dodgers can still make money. They just can't spend it all. It's profit now. It's profit rather than.
And the MLB is trying to take control of, obviously, all of the television networks. They're trying to make it all under one umbrella. I mean, when Bally and then Diamond went, bankrupt, and the league came and bailed them out, and they're, wanting obviously these other deals like the Dodgers have, those are going to expire. And when they expire, MLB is going to own the whole TV distribution. That's 100% where that's going to fall. And they need to, in all honesty, to make it fair. I mean,
yeah. I mean, you look at the NBA, you got OKC and San Antonio, two of the top three teams. And, the Knicks won it this year, but OKC and San Antonio, very small markets, but it's very fair because of the way it's all set up. And the NFL is pretty much the same too. Anybody can win it in the and the NHL. The NHL doesn't have, LA Kings and the New York Rangers winning Stanley Cups every year. It's or the Blackhawks. It's not dominated by
big markets.
The markets. It's everybody's in it together. So baseball is the only one that hasn't gone there, and I think it's coming. I really do. I think the owners are going to be sticklers about it this time. I would be shocked if there's not some type of, you got Dave Roberts coming out and saying, I'm fine with a cap as long as there's a floor.
Yeah, that was a surprising comment, and I think he's spot on. But because of that unique position, with the fact that I'm really confident that there will be a cap, ceiling and a floor. I think that this Adames deal in particular isn't going to look that bad. I think, like, if you look about him being a free agent, I think he's going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of like a 5-6 year deal at $30 million each. It's what the thing is that the deal is like a year too long, and that's the whole point of free agency, right? Everybody's like a year or two too long. And I think that, if the Giants can get creative with no matter who the particular team is or whatever the variables of those players, it's just the strategy of not just sending Rafael Devers to whomever is going to take him and you send him with a suitcase of $40 million. It's taking on some deals, like I mentioned with the Braves, where it's like, hey, Sean Murphy isn't exactly fully dead money. Even Jerks Profar isn't fully dead money. He's going to get paid $15 million next year, assuming he doesn't do another Ped suspension. But, hey, if you eat even $8 million on that deal, half of it, is there a team that wants Jerks Profar for 8 years, $1 million? Probably. Sure, especially if teams are going to
Yeah.
have to start ramping up that payroll. And so it's just about this idea of getting creative with the players that they have on the books and taking on some of these bad contracts. Because
Yeah.
if there is a cap, the Brewers are absolutely going to want to get off of a Yelich at 25 million. The
Right.
Blue Jays are definitely going to want to get off of a couple of players. And I'm not saying take on, a Mike Trout deal that, still
Right.
has 6, 7 years left to it. I'm talking about there's about 13 contracts that I've identified that literally are up in 2028,
Yeah.
and
I love that idea. Just take the bad money on, and for a couple of years you suffer. It's kind of, you're in salary cap hell for a while, but you get it done, especially if there's a grandfathering thing going on for I want to address Philip's question. He says, would league minimum go up in this scenario? How do you do a full rebuild and still pay enough to reach the floor? I hope it's not an obvious question. All right. Good question, Philip. Here's how you get to your floor. Let's say it's 175 as we're talking, and the Giants have all these young guys. Well, you sign Bryce Eldridge to a 12-year, $250 million deal, and he's making $22 million a year. Okay, there's 22 toward it. Or you give him a $300 million deal, and it's $25 million a year for 12 years, something like that. And then you get your guy. It's kind of like what the Braves did, but you do it a little bit more. You get a Joe Shar Gonzalez, and you see that, okay, let's give him 10 years, 20 million. He's up and looking great at 21, 22. He's ready for the big leagues. And maybe Hernandez gets the same type of deal. And then maybe you do have that trade that somebody is making big money, as Casey's talking about. You got a couple guys from other teams that you're taking those contracts to get more young prospects. And so you're taking on $25 million a year salary for that year or 2 years, and then you pushes your salary floor up to meet that 175 million, and you're bringing up these young guys because you're getting them in trades, and then you're offloading those contracts when they expire, and now you've got more young guys coming up, and then maybe you trade one of these younger stud players and you get he's the number 1 or 2 prospect in all of baseball. Let's say Joshua Gonzalez is the top prospect in baseball, and you're ready to compete, and there's a superstar out there named, let's see who could be that in 3. Yeah. And you trade for him. Or you sign him as a free agent, or
right.
Let's say there's gosh, I don't know, all kinds of things that can happen, but those type of things, that's how you would meet it. But and I think there's going to be a gradual thing too. I don't think it's like, okay, 27, the deal signed, everybody's got to get to 175, and everybody's scrambling, and I will say, when you do have a cap like that, you get guys that get overpaid. Guys like a Kyle Juszczyk, with the 49ers, that gets a big contract because they have all this cap money, and they just, hey, we got to spend it. Let's give it to some of these guys. And then you see guys, getting these ridiculous $15-20 million deals a year, and they're not, they're an $8 million wide receiver and they're getting 20, whatever. That'll happen. But the smart executives, I think teams like Tampa Bay are going to have an advantage because they know how to find young talent and they won't overspend probably on too much. I don't know. They just seem like they have an organization that knows what they're doing. We'll see, but I don't know.
I think the idea there on like how you do a full rebuild is that is the reason why you take on the Santander deal, the Yelich deal, the Chris Bryant deals, and the Giants whether or not they end up having a hard cap next year, or they do exactly what they're doing this year, where, it's been a tax. The idea is to unload the Chapman, Adames, and Devers deals, clear those off the books, and even Lee. And Lee is, a $20 million player who's really not getting overpaid at the moment, and he's probably going to opt out here. So the concept is all of a sudden the Giants payroll is around $200 million now, gets cut in half to about $100 million, and then you take on about $100 million of bad contracts. They're going to both that are all going to be expired by the end of 2028. So if there is, whether or not there is a cap or isn't, that's how you meet the requirement. But in that meantime, when you've got you've taken on $100 million worth of bad contracts, and I mean that, like, Yelich is $25 million a year, Chris Bryant's $25 million a year. You're getting Bryce Eldridge's. You're literally getting, like you said, you're getting the number one player from the Brewers, because you're maybe giving them Webb, and maybe you can pay even some of Webb's contract. Webb is somewhere in the $20 million, 23 I think it is. $46 million I think he's owed for the next 2 years. You could pay part of that deal.
Giants have played 76 games, right? Yeah, they're 31 and 45. They have 86 games to go. They're 31 and 45, or 31 and 45. They are at a 40.7 winning percentage. It's about 97 losses, I think. Let's see. It's 66 wins, 96 losses. Yeah. Sure. Where do you think they end up?
It depends on how much they actually sell. To answer that question, like, hey, where does this go? So what do they really do? I think that Arias is gone. I think Ray's gone. And I think they do move off of one of the big three. And I think it probably is, my gut says, it's Chapman, but it's like, but that was Posey's guy. And, when Bryce hits that grand slam, walk-off, they said, hey, who's that leader in that clubhouse? And he's Chapman. Like, oh, it's Chappie. Yeah. So it doesn't really line up to me that then they trade Chapman. But let's just say it's Adames, hypothetically. I do think one of the three move. While all of those guys aren't world beaters, Ray isn't a world beater, but I mean, he's definitely better than who they would bring in from AAA, right? So I think that you're probably looking at 100+ losses. I think that you're looking at more like 103 losses. And as we've all kind of talked about, unfortunately, that only correlates to the 10th pick, next year. So it's not like, this tank mode is a thing anymore. But what about you? How bad do you think it gets?
Here's where I think it gets bad. Let me go back and I'll pull something up here. I wanted to, let me see if I can get the printable. Okay. I can show a little bit of it here. All right. Let me pull up the schedule here. I show it great, but all right. We're in June. We're on tomorrow, June 21st. Okay. I want to go to July and August because I think this is where it gets really rough for the Giants. Let me see here. I don't like having to go month to month. I wanted to pull up the whole schedule. All right, here we go. All right. Originally, the Giants had the 31st of August off. All right.
Right.
They're going to start on August 18th, a road trip in Cleveland, and then they go to Boston. So that's a 6-game trip in 6 days. Come home. They got the Reds for 3, the Diamondbacks for 4. So they've got 13 straight games, and then they were going to get a day off. But they're not now. So they're going to play Atlanta, and then they're going to have to go to Pittsburgh the next day. They were going to go from San Francisco straight to Pittsburgh, but now they got to stop off and do a makeup game that they will likely be completely mentally out of it and not like, crap, we got to go to Atlanta, then we got to go, so that's 13 games in a row, 3, 6, 9, 13, 14 on the 31st. And then we go, is this on the screen, by the way?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Then we go to September, and we've got 3, 6, 9 more games in a row, 23 straight games in 23 days. In late August and September, when they're out of the race, they are playing teams that will likely be playing for something. Their bullpen will be taxed. Their starting pitchers will be taxed. I think that 23 game stretch is a team that could lose like 16 of them, go 7-16. Okay. And so I think it's going to be 100. I'm in agreement with you. And I think that whether they keep the guys or not, because that stretch is going to be a killer. And, what are guys, and if they're on the team, Adames, Chapman, and Devers, what are those guys? What's their motivation?
Right.
What's their motivation? I mean, I could see Chapman still hustling. Adames and Devers, I could see those guys just like cashing
it in. Yeah.
So
I 100% agree. And it's like, hey, and whether or not you get to 96 losses or 106 losses, at the end of the day, it's still 96 losses is a horrible season. 106 losses is a horrible season. But maybe that is rock bottom. Maybe that does wake up this front office and they realize that they need to do some of the things that, we're talking about here today, where they go, hey, we aren't just one off season away from, winning one for the Gipper.
Right. Right. Hold on one second. All right. So, let's call it a day here. Saturday. I got to get a few things done, but we'll be back tomorrow. What's the game time? 10:40 tomorrow? Is it a check?
See here.
I think it's 10:40.
Yep, 10:40.
All right. So 1:30-ish. Maybe. I don't know. It's Father's Day. I know I've got plans tomorrow night, so we'll probably come on for a short period tomorrow. Happy Father's Day to all those in the chat that may not be here tomorrow. So happy Father's Day in advance to everybody. But hey, Giants baseball, there's nothing like it. It truly is the slogan for the third or fourth season in a row. There really is nothing like it. Guys, thanks for being here. Casey, thanks for stepping in, man. Yeah. Great to have you. You're a wealth of knowledge. I really enjoy your takes. I think you really understand the game and understand the facets of everything that's happening and what the Giants need to do. So you're welcome anytime on the show. We may be, looking at times to do 3 on the show itself. And so, yeah,
it's great talking ball with you.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Let's get out of here. What are we going to play today on the way out? What do we got? Nothing really good. We can't play Tony Victory.
I was just going to say that.
I don't know if
that's got dust on the record.
Very much so. Let's go with our regular. What was this one? I don't know what this one is. Is it playing? I don't even hear it.
Can't hear anything. There you go.
Well, no, we don't want let's go with a little lyrics here. All right.
I never really know
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button if you would on the way out. Make sure you do that. Hit that like and subscribe. What do we got in here? I don't even know how many likes we got going on today. I got to check the phone here. 33 likes, 34, 35. All right, let's see if we can get that up over 60. That would be great. All right, guys, have a wonderful Father's Day if we don't see you tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll be back about 1:30 again. Giants lose again. They're now 2-2 on the road trip. And it looks like I said 2-4, but they had a rain out, so we'll see. Do they get swept tomorrow? They got a good shot. Logan Webb's going tomorrow, so I think he might be able to put a stop to this. We'll see. I don't know. It depends if the bats show up or not. All right. We're out of here.
Yeah, Dan.
See you, Casey. Thanks for showing up. And let's get a John Miller. Let's see if we can pull this off here. Let's get our John Miller goodbye in here. Where is it? I don't know. I need Dallas. He knows where everything's at. I don't see it. Oh, well. Oh, wait, there it is.